The Brave Adventure of Hansel and Gretel. Once upon a time, in a cozy little cottage at the edge of a great forest, lived a brother and sister named Hansel and Gretel. Their family was very poor, and sometimes there wasn't enough food to eat. One day, their stepmother told their father that they should leave Hansel and Gretel in the forest because they could not afford to feed them anymore. The father did not want to, but the stepmother insisted. Hansel and Gretel heard their plan and were very scared. Hansel, being the clever boy he was, decided to collect shiny white pebbles from the garden. He put them in his pockets, and when it was time to go to the forest, he dropped the pebbles one by one along the path. This way, he and Gretel could find their way back home. The next morning, their stepmother led them deep into the forest. She told them to wait by a tree while she and their father went to gather wood. Hansel and Gretel waited and waited, but their parents did not return. As night fell, the forest became dark and spooky. But Hansel reassured Gretel that they could follow the trail of pebbles back home. Under the bright moonlight, the pebbles sparkled like little stars, guiding them safely back to their cottage. Their father was overjoyed to see them, but their stepmother was not pleased. A few days later, their stepmother took them to the forest again, but this time, Hansel couldn't collect pebbles. Instead, he crumbled a piece of bread in his pocket and left crumbs along the path. However, the birds in the forest ate all the crumbs, and Hansel and Gretel could not find their way back home. They wandered for hours and hours, feeling very hungry and tired. Just when they thought they were lost forever, they saw a magical sight. A house made entirely of candy, cookies, and cakes. The windows were made of sugar, and the roof was covered in chocolate. Hansel and Gretel were so hungry that they started nibbling on the house. Suddenly, an old woman with a kind face opened the door and invited them inside. She offered them delicious food and a cozy bed. Hansel and Gretel were so happy to have found a safe place to stay. But the old woman was not as kind as she seemed. She was a wicked witch who wanted to eat the children. The witch locked Hansel in a cage and made Gretel cook and clean for her. Every day, she would check if Hansel was getting fatter, but Hansel cleverly held out a bone instead of his finger, so the witch thought he was still too thin. One day, the witch grew tired of waiting and decided to eat Hansel anyway. She told Gretel to prepare the oven. Clever Gretel pretended not to know how to light it. "Silly girl," the witch said. "Let me show you how." As the witch leaned into the oven, Gretel gave her a big push, and the witch fell in. Gretel quickly shut the door, and the wicked witch was gone forever. Gretel freed Hansel from the cage, and they found treasure hidden in the witch's house. They filled their pockets with jewels and gold and set off to find their way back home. After many adventures, Hansel and Gretel finally found their way back to their father. They were tired and hungry, but they had the treasure and were safe. Their father was overjoyed and welcomed them with open arms. He promised never to leave them again, and their stepmother was gone forever. With the treasure, they bought food and lived happily ever after. Hansel and Gretel remembered their adventure for the rest of their lives. They learned to always stick together and never give up, no matter how hard things might seem. Moral of the story: the story of Hansel and Gretel teaches us the importance of courage and clever thinking. Even when faced with scary situations, we see how Hansel and Gretel used their wits to overcome challenges. It also shows us the importance of sibling love and support, as Hansel and Gretel always looked out for each other. The story encourages us to be brave and resourceful and to trust in the power of family and kindness.